So after the game on Saturday, biggest thing Coach said you guys have to work on is rebounding. Just from your guys' perspective, what's really going to be the focus there for you guys, and what did you guys see in that game so then you guys can fix it going into this week?
Rebounding has kind of been like the story of our season. We have to have a group effort when it comes to rebounding, and we've been trying to work on it in practice. We haven't been too successful in the games, but it's one game at a time. It's something to get better at. There's still plenty of time, plenty of games to play, and we're just trying to look at it as something to grow from. And Coach just wants us to be more physical, and we know within ourselves that we have to be more physical in the games. That's rebounding is a mentality, and we just have to change our mentality, and we're going to be able to get better, clean up the boards. Especially against a team like Lindenwood that we have coming up. Who's good at rebounding. So it's just something that we have to focus on. So, yeah.
I was going to say kind of similar question to the ladies, but just, obviously throughout the conference season, you guys had a lot of close games, obviously with some of the top teams, Tennessee State, UT Martin, SEMO, I think some of those top teams at Moorhead. So you guys have shown that you guys can play, at the level with anybody at the top of the standings. But where do you find that consistency to actually close some of these games? Because obviously you're in a one and done type scenario now where you got to get it done.
Going back to Kachi's point, rebounding, that's been the win or lose type of game with every team we've lost to. If we rebound more, we would have won, but we didn't. So, that's the main focal point coming into to the OVC tournament is rebounding, game rebounding, boxing out, and just protecting the boards.
Both guys, does anything change mindset-wise going from we're playing every few days to if all goes well, you'll play every single day?
Yeah. It's just like with our team, we've already been shorthanded the whole season. Of course, we got the new addition of Joe coming in, hot for us. And, it's just looking at it one step at a time, one game at a time. So, we're coming in, the same mentality. We got to have a road warrior mentality, come out there, compete. It's not our home floor, so it's going to be a tough game for both sides. So either way, we have to come in, aggressive and prepared. Coach does a great job preparing us every game. So we're coming in with the mindset of trusting his game plan and trusting in ourselves and each other, and hopefully with that and our focus, we'll be able to win these games. So yeah, we're ready for that.
Joe, you talked about how after Saturday, that was a huge moment for you to be able to step in and then get all those minutes and points. You mentioned about how beforehand you kind of took some time and just worked on yourself personally and stuff. What did you do, or what did you say to yourself in that moment?
Leading up to that, anybody in them type of shoes, it would be kind of hard, the whole season kind of watching and kind of, hoping, wishing that you would get a chance. And for me, I've always like the underdog story. So, I always kept my head down, keep working. Because I know, I believe in the Most High, and whenever that time comes, He'll put you in the right position, and He did. And so, practices, warm-ups, I took them seriously. And when it was just time for me to, get on that floor, preparation and opportunity.
You guys split the series versus Lindenwood, a win on the road, a loss at home. What did you guys take from those two games, and what is Coach Walker applying from those two games for the tournament matchup?
What we took for those games, especially the first game, we just have to be ready to help each other on defense, especially defensively. They're a driving team. Of course, they have outside shooting, but their main focus and main scoring does come from an inside, and that's really just a message that Coach has really been pushing towards us. Be in the gaps, help each other, help ourselves by being in the gaps on defense, and with that, sticking to our defensive game plan, being aggressive as we usually are. Hopefully with that and our preparation, we'll be able to win these games. So, yeah.
And for Joe, obviously, got recognized by the league today. Played 37 minutes on Saturday. So you've kind of really ascended into a new role this last week. So just kind of how's that whirlwind been, kind of like balancing that with also, like I said, now we're in a situation now where, you said the next loss of the season could be over. So, it's a high pressure situation, but just, kind of guess how are you holding up and how are you feeling after 37 minutes?
I think I told my dad yesterday, it was different from high school. When you play the entire game, I feel like I could play another game. after that game versus Indiana, I was like, no, I needed a rest. I needed to fill myself some electrolytes. I was tired. But at the same time, I also loved it. I mean, I love playing basketball. So for me, it was excitement, adrenaline, even though I did want to get subbed out, in my head I was like, no, I want to keep playing, no matter what. So, yes, getting recognized today was great. Family and friends congratulated me, and it was an amazing moment.
Does that performance Saturday change anything going into the tournament, or is it business as usual?
Business as usual. I mean, I told myself, if the shot's there, take it. If it's not, keep it moving. I mean, it's, when you play basketball, especially at this level now, you got to be in the moment. That game's over with. This is a new game, so new, same mentality, but, it's nothing changes. I mean, it's same business. Got to go in there, rebound, take smart shots, make smart plays, make winning plays.
For you guys, just not having Jonathan there on Saturday, like what did you guys kind of learn about your group, just kind of having to do it without him? Obviously, you're leading the scorer.
I mean, it's really just next man up. Joe put in the work. I used to see him every time 7 a.m. getting his work in, and he took advantage of his moment. And the mentality for our team is just moving the ball. Everybody's going to get a touch. Having a dominant scorer like Jonathan helps us a lot, but we needed somebody who's going to fill that role with him being out, and Joe was able to step up. And we really just learned about ourselves is that we're resilient. Even with the injuries that we dealt with this year, and even with Jonathan being out, we'll still be able to play as a team and get wins for our team and our community. But with him coming back and what we've learned about ourselves is only going to be up from here. So.
You got that familiarity, seen them twice. Just what is the scouting report on Lindenwood? What do they do well? How do you counter?
Scouting report for Lindenwood, they had size, they're physical. It was really matching their physicality. They play more of a one-on-one type game. So, it's take your turn type of team. So with that, it's just staying focused, being disciplined on defense and keeping up with them in transition. They're a really fast-paced team. So, just staying with that and then, playing off of their defensive mistakes. We're also a good transition team. And if we play in transition, we'll be able to get wide open threes, wide open layups like we did when we beat them the last time. So it's just staying disciplined, staying focused, and we should get the win if we do that.
And then the two of you guys combined 10 threes on Saturday. So, obviously we're determined we're kind of make or miss situation. I mean, could just be, how important I guess is to kind of have that ability to stretch the defense and kind of keep them honest and make them respect that the long distance shooting. Either one.
I mean, shooting nowadays, especially 3-point shooting, it stretches the defense out, and Kachi's ability, being so strong, being so big in the paint, his ability to stretch it out makes it, easier for us. Easier for us to, people like Toom to drive down the lane, also like Cam, and threes, making 10 threes together, that's 30 points right there. And any opposing team, you have to respect that. You have to come out and guard us. So, it really opens up our offense, because we love cutting, we love slipping, moving. So, us being able to shoot the ball is a spectacular thing.